You know the why human trafficking work is needed to fight for the freedom of modern day slaves. But love, passion, commitment isn't all you need to be an effective and successful anti trafficking advocate. Learn the how. I'm Dr. Celia Williamson, Director of the Human Trafficking and Social Justice Institute at the University of Toledo. Welcome to the Emancipation Nation podcast, where I'll provide you with the latest and best methods, policy, and practice discussed by experienced experts in the field so that you can cut through the noise, save time, and be about the work of saving lives.
Hello, welcome to the 11th episode of Emancipation Nation. Today, I'm so excited because I have Teresa Flores that is going to talk to us today and impart some knowledge. And Teresa is a licensed social worker. She has her master's in counselor education. She's also the founder of Save Our Adolescents from Prostitution, which is which stands for SOAP. And Teresa is a survivor and a thriver of sex trafficking. She is world known. She has been on national television. People know her internationally. So she's a very, very busy person. But she always takes time out to really work directly with survivors, helping them to become thrivers. She holds retreats, weekend retreats, where survivors come from all across the country to spend the weekend sort of building themselves emotionally, psychologically, having fun with it, and just validating who they are. So I'm excited. Thank you, Teresa, for being with us today.
My pleasure. It's so exciting to help others in this path of continuing to care for themselves and be leaders too.
Yeah, so Teresa, I just want you to tell the listeners just a overview of your story because your story is fascinating. But then what you do with your life after your story is remarkable. So if you could just tell people a little bit about your story.
Sure. I think that my story is what people think is very different than trafficking. But as I've met hundreds, if not thousands of survivors, my story is very similar to others. And I think it's just that people aren't talking about my type of story as much. I was an all-American kid, I guess you'd say, middle class, two parents, Irish Catholic. And you would think that that would exempt me because I don't fit that mold of being impoverished or a minority, living in the inner city, drug addicted parents. I don't fit that model. But it didn't exempt me. And so I moved around a lot, which is actually what I think made me vulnerable because I was always the new kid. So I think that's where my vulnerability came in. I did not have a strong support system. And I think people assume that if you live in a nice neighborhood and your parents make a lot of money, you have strong supports. And that is not always the case. So I was approached when I moved to a new place as a ninth grader. I was approached by a boy in my school who was much different than any boy I had ever met. And I became enamored with him, and I do believe that these people chose me. They saw the vulnerability in me, and he groomed me. Just what it's interesting because we call the word grooming, but really it's the same as courting, just with bad intentions. And so he kept giving me nice compliments and everything. And after a while, I would say he wore me down and just offered me a ride home from school one day. And, here I am 15, very excited that, he's going to give me a ride home. Unfortunately, I was very naive and thought he was going to take me home. But he took me to his house and invited me in and ended up drugging and raping me. And then one of the biggest mistakes I made, at least in the beginning, was that I didn't rush home and tell my parents. And you got to remember, this is like 1980. So there was no such thing as date rape back then. We didn't talk about things like this. You just kept it quiet, and um, and that's what I did. And so a couple of days later, he showed up at school with photos, which today would be very similar to sexting. And he and his cousins and this organized network ended up trafficking me while I lived at home and went to school during the day. They would take me out actually during school and at night without my parents knowing, and would sell me to men because I had to earn back these photos. And as it went on for a year and a half, 2 years, the threats increased to following me and my brothers, threatening to kill my family, and actually killing my dog one night. So it was a very different situation than what most hear about human trafficking.
Wow, that's yeah, and the vulnerability, we don't often think about that, but and I wonder if that vulnerability exists among military kids
Mhm.
and those types of things, which we don't really focus on.
Yeah, even pastors' kids,
Oh
the
yeah.
yeah. I mean, just the what do you call it? Where it's the the pressure to maintain face, and be the good kid and always do things right is what makes them vulnerable.
Yes. Well, and so how did you ever get out?
So it was really a miracle. It's very escape is very difficult, and it comes in many different ways for trafficking survivors. Mine came in a miracle where my dad was transferred again, so we moved. And luckily, we didn't move within the same state. We moved 1,000 miles away, and when I found out we were moving, I didn't even tell one single friend. I was like, I'm going to keep this a secret, because I just knew instinctively that if they found out that one night when they would take me, that they were just not going to return me, because was making them a lot of money as a, blonde white girl. And I knew that I was a big investment to them. And so I was able to literally escape, in my parents' van, going miles away.
Wow, that's amazing. And then how long did it take you to tell your parents or tell anybody?
Yeah, a long time. I didn't have the words. I don't consider myself having been a prostitute. I never, even if you would have asked me back then, I didn't think that, I didn't even know that they were prostituting me out. Like, that word didn't even enter my mind. I was just thinking that I was having to do these horrible things. Um, so it took me a long time, probably 5 years after I got out. So after I graduated college, and even when I sat them down, I told them very, very little, because I didn't have the words for it.
Mhm.
And and then again, years later, I talked to them more about what happened. But it's a very difficult subject to talk to your parents about.
Yeah, and so what age did this happen and what age did you start to talk to people about it?
So I was 15 years old when it started, right before my 16th birthday. And then it went through half of my sophomore year and all of my junior year. So I was 17 when I got out. And it took me until I was 40 years old. Was it 40? 42. Until I was 42 years of old to even know what the word human trafficking was, and to put that with me. And so at the moment that I learned that this was human trafficking is the very moment when I started this new endeavor in my life.
Wow. And so what have you been doing since then? Because you've been doing amazing work and there are so many grateful survivors because you took on this work. So how did you even start doing anti-trafficking work?
I didn't start off like with this intention, that's for sure. So I just started off wanting to share my story to change laws. That was my first intention. We didn't have a law in Ohio 12 years ago on even defining human trafficking. And I thought, oh my gosh, my daughter is 15, the same age as I was when I was first trafficked. If something happened to her or her friends, we have nothing that we can do about this. And so I wanted to be able to give people the right tools in their toolbox if this happens. And I didn't even know to what magnitude this happened at. I just knew that it happened to me. And so I offered at that time Representative Fetter my voice, and Representative Chandler, who were sponsoring bills. And I said, I will testify. I will, because I think that those men mostly that are sitting there passing these bills, they look a little like me, and I look a little like their daughters and their granddaughters, and maybe they'll listen to me. And as unfortunate and horrible as that is, it was true. And so I started off slowly with that intention. And then people like Prevent Child Abuse Ohio asked me to share my story. And I would never have thought that what happened to me was considered child abuse or sexual abuse. And it was. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I just slowly was asked to share my story. And I felt like since I had just found my voice, I owed it to everyone to do this. So that's how I started off.
Yes, because some people, like, you know, younger people listening,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they think, because the story is often told this way in a very linear fashion, like you are nationally and internationally known as a human trafficking advocate. And some people believe that you had your future all mapped out. So you just went and you implemented each step in your strategic plan. And that's how you became the person you are today. And what people don't realize, because in history books, that's how they tell the story of the heroes.
Mhm.
And you know what they don't realize is sometimes you have the intention, you're saying yes, and you're willing to open those doors, but sometimes you don't know where those doors are, and you don't know, and you just bump into the next wall until you learn to go over the wall,
Yeah.
and you just see what's next right in front of you. Like you saw, hey, there's a possibility that I could help change a law that would protect not one person, but young people all across the state. I'll
Mhm.
do that. And
Right.
then, you know, the next thing and the next thing. And so once you worked with Fetter
Mhm.
and began to change laws, then what happened?
Then another senator approached me from Michigan, where I was actually trafficked at, and said, I need to learn more about this. I understand this is a huge problem in our state, you know, in addition to everywhere else. And I want to help. And so she asked me, and we were sitting at lunch in Toledo. Actually, we met halfway, and she said, you know, what do survivors need? And I just was going on and on and on. And I said, you know, people ask me, why didn't you prosecute your traffickers? And it's almost like accusing me that, and saying it must not be true if you haven't gone after them, um, which is another pretty tough thing for survivors to be almost accosted with. And they still, some of them are still alive. They're in Michigan. And I told her, because, you know, of the fear, most survivors are very afraid of this, of them retaliating. And I said, the statute of limitations is over. This happened when I was 15. I'm 42 now, and I can't go back. Generally, the statute of limitations for rape is around 6 years to 25 years. At 6 years after that, I didn't even identify with what happened. At 25 years, I still didn't even really identify with being a trafficking survivor. So I said, what about making an unlimited statute of limitations, where like whenever a survivor is ready and she's been trafficked as a child, why not say you have the right to go and prosecute them? And so she did that. She passed actually 22 bills in the state of Michigan, all around various things, from mandatory education to health professionals on trafficking. to statute of limitations removal. And I believe that that was the first state that ever has removed the statute of limitations for a trafficking victim.
Wow. And who is this person? Who's this legislator?
Senator Judy Emmons
Well,
from Michigan.
well, hats off to you, Senator Judy Emmons, because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
amazing.
yes.
And so you passed those laws. And
Mhm.
how did you even think up SOAP, your organization?
Yeah. So obviously, I wasn't very keen on going to Michigan to tell my story ever, since they still live there. But I kept meeting survivor after survivor all around the country at other talks, as I was avoiding Michigan. And they had all been trafficked through Detroit at some point. And I thought, wow, we really need to wake Michigan up to this. It's, on the borders of Toledo and Chicago, and so I was asked by the Seroptimist and a group called Zonta, a women's group, to go and speak. And I decided, okay, it's time, And so I went to Detroit, northern Detroit, to go share my story. And on the way home that night, I got lost. And I got angry at God. It's funny, I didn't really get angry at him when I was trafficked, but at that moment, I got angry at him.
Yeah.
And I just decided that there were so many Teresas out there still that we don't even know. And I wanted to do more than just talk about this. When I would go to talks and share my story, people were angry. They're like, how come we don't know about this? What can we do about it? And I had no idea what to tell them. And so I decided that maybe if we try and reach her in her moment of need in that hotel room, and she can see that there is a hotline number she can call, maybe she'll call and maybe we can reach them, and we could educate these hotels and motels where this is happening at, and maybe they could help us rescue some. So that is how SOAP was born.
And so you provide free soap for
Mhm.
hotels and motels that on the back of the soap has the national hotline number, correct?
Yes.
And so you have about how many cities, states, how many volunteers? What's the magnitude of this?
Well, we've been doing it for 10 years. We've given away over 1 million bars of soap. Um, every time we go into a city to do it, we have about an 83 to 90% success rate of every hotel that we approach taking our soap with the labels. Almost every single one takes our educational information and our missing children's posters. So we have, I think, soap chapters that are ongoing in 19 cities. We hope by the end of 2020 to have a soap chapter in each state. And so we have thousands of volunteers. For the Super Bowl that we go to every year, we usually get between 300 and 500 volunteers in a weekend to help us.
Wow. And so is that what soap targets, events where
Mhm.
transient men will come in? Is that how you choose the cities and the dates?
That's a big way that we do it. It's just a great opportunity to get into those places and talk to them about the issue. But once we start a chapter, the chapter then does it all year round. Maybe once a year, maybe 4 times a year. So they determine when they want to do it. But we do like to go to NASCAR races, to the National Republican and Democratic conventions, to the Final Four, and we do go to those areas because we know that trafficking, I mean, just the demand for sex for sale around those events quadruples. So we do target those particularly.
And have you been able to identify victims? I mean, I know you have, and
Yeah.
but I want you to be able to share with the listeners like how many victims do you identify or recover?
That's impossible to know. And I really consider this like the mustard seed where we're just planting and then whoever knows how it grows. And I'm okay with that. It's funny because so many people want to know the exact number of how many we've rescued, and I'm okay with not knowing. I do get reports back of stories, and it just warms my heart because I know that it does work. When we were in Phoenix for the Super Bowl, a team went out and with the missing children's poster, and one of the motel staff recognized the girl and said she was in here last night with an older guy, and he said, I just felt wrong about it and I didn't let them stay. And he said, but in the meantime, the guy had filled out, the registration paper of his make and model of his car. And so we called the police and they went over there and we just said, she was last seen here. And the police were wonderful. They talked to the motel, and the motel people were wonderful too, because they pulled the information and they ran the guy's plates and found out that he was one of these big pimps that they had been searching for. But rumor was that he was leaving because of the Super Bowl and all the law enforcement that would be around. But I guess he didn't leave. And within 24 hours, they found him with her. They rescued her and then another 16-year-old and then put him in jail. So it was a really cool instant story.
Yeah, that's amazing because one life matters. The story of the starfish, where you're lots of starfish on the shore, but throw one back in the ocean, that matters to that one.
Yeah.
So I agree. I don't think you need to have the number, although it'd be amazing to know. But it's the same thing with our human trafficking conference over the years. The people come and they take information back to their cities, their villages, they start programs, and I would really love to know the impact of the conference. But sometimes when you're in the eye of the storm and you're doing the work, you don't have time to have the luxury of figuring out what the impact was. You just know that there's an impact.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's people that tell me, they heard my story and they, at that very moment, realized that they were a survivor too, or they read my book and they realized that this had happened to them. And so I don't have any idea either how many, or just how many people it's impacted. And you have to be okay with that.
Yes.
That.
Yes. So, where do you get your donations, your funding for SOAP?
From everybody and anybody. We have not ever gotten any kind of federal funding. We've gotten like a state grant, but really it's just through the good hearts of people sending in donations. We sell a lot of merchandise when I do talks. And churches, we've got some really great churches that have given us money. Lots of nuns have given us grants for our retreats. But some corporations have raised money for us. And it's just really through working hard and getting the word out there and people kind of adopting us.
Yeah. And so if someone wants to start a chapter in their city or they want to make a donation to SOAP, how do they do it?
Sure. They would just contact, if they want to start a SOAP chapter, sam@soapproject.org. And you can just look up our website, www.soapproject.org, and all the information is on there. Sometimes even just groups of people want to buy a case of soap and sit around their house or their school or church and label it and then donate it back to us to use. So we then get that soap out to the local chapter so that they have it and don't have to purchase it to get it out. So one of the new things that we've started doing is also having people buy and label makeup remover wipes, those little individual makeup remover wipes that you see in hotels.
Yeah.
Because not all of our hotels can take our soap because we have one brand of soap. I can't carry every single different hotel's brand of soap. And a lot of the higher ends, they have contracts with companies and they have to use this certain brand. So we had the idea, because I travel a lot and I've noticed these hotels using these lovely makeup remover wipes. So we had the idea of telling hotels, if you can't use our soap, that's fine, but you can add another amenity to what's already sitting on your bathroom counter. And here's these wipes, and everybody has loved them. So we're trying just to remove any and every barrier we can to getting that phone number out.
Yes, I love that. And I love the idea that people can label the soap, package the soap, send it back. So every single hand
Yeah.
can be used in this effort, even if they don't want to go to meetings
Right.
and I don't want to get deeply involved. But, maybe you and your girls get together and you go out to dinner or you watch movies. While you're watching the movie, you could be sitting there, you could
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
fighting, trafficking right there in
Exactly.
your living room.
Yeah, because you never
So,
know where that one bar of soap's going to end up. So
exactly. I love, love, love that idea. And so, talk a little bit about your retreats and what you're doing for survivors all across the country, isn't it?
yeah, it is. A few years ago, I just kept meeting so many survivors, and I mean, I hate to say this, but I just kept seeing their brokenness. And it reminded me of all those years I was broken and just basically being a zombie, stumbling around, just trying to do the best that I could, be the best mom that I could, and failing. And, so I thought all these years that, oh, I'm healed because I have a social work degree and I'm a social worker. I'm healed because I was able to get married and have children. But I didn't see my brokenness, those hidden wounds that were still there. And so as I worked really, really hard on my issues, I kept meeting more survivors. And I realized that, in these past 12 years of doing this mission, this ministry, that I had this amazing support group and I had opportunities to heal, and a lot of them don't. So I wanted to teach these women all the things that I had learned along the way that helped me. And I'm going to get teary on that one. And so I decided, I have no idea. I just decided one day that we should have a retreat and share with them this. And I had only gone on one retreat in my entire life. And so I based it on this retreat.
Mhm.
And I got together amazing people, facilitators, volunteers, and said, hey, what would you like to share with these women? And people came all around. And these volunteers pay for their own plane ticket. They donate their entire weekend. They bring supplies with them, and they come and share their knowledge and their love for these women. And then I just asked a few survivors, hey, would you like to come to this? And we will, don't worry, we're going to remove every boundary we can. We will fly you to us. And I fundraised, and I just begged people to give me money for a plane ticket for these ladies. And since then, we've had 5 retreats, and we've had over 125 survivors attend our retreats. And we generally have had them in Michigan and Ohio. But this year, we were blessed by a company and a resort to have a retreat, an advanced survivor retreat in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic.
Wow, that's
I
cool.
know. Yeah, we took 20 survivors there, and these women want this healing so badly that they will do things you can't even imagine. One of our survivors, she had not been on an airplane since the last time when she was abducted, put on an airplane and taken out of the country.
Hmm.
And she had vowed she would never go out of the country again. But she trusted me, and she said, I need this. And so she got on a plane and she went out of the country to do this. And so these women sacrifice a lot and trust a lot to be able to get this healing. And then another amazing thing has happened through it is that it's not just the healing and the growing and the learning, but they have developed a strong, strong support system that they have never had in their life. And they've created their own tribe. So it's an ongoing support system they have for each other now.
Yes, because you have a closed Facebook where they can talk to each other,
Yep.
anytime, right? They have each other's phone numbers.
Yeah. After they have attended a retreat, they get accepted onto our closed private Facebook page, along with the facilitators that go, and they're able to talk to each other back and forth. I'll see, like, oh, someone's up at 3 in the morning. Who else is up? Who can talk? And we actually have just started a group me. It's like a really cool app on your phone, And they're all on that too, and they go back and forth and just support each other and ask each other questions. And it's so wonderful to see, no matter where in the country they live, they support each other.
That's amazing. And so what kinds of things do you do at the retreat?
One of my favorite things is we do a drum circle. And I had the idea to do that because drum circles are really cool, where you're all in a circle, you're beating this drum, you're hitting these maracas or whatever, and you're getting all this, pent up anger and everything that we hold in out of you. But it also unites us all together as well. And it's almost a spiritual moment. We've had two really cool facilitators that come and they lead us, and they'll be like, okay, this side of the room do this beat and that side of the room do that beat, then come together. And it's just a really fun night. This year we got those lanterns, those Chinese lanterns,
Mhm.
and we started off the weekend with writing something on that lantern that you wanted to get rid of. That by the end of the weekend you wanted it to no longer be with you. And I did that in the beginning instead of the end, because I wanted them to make room for what was to come. And sometimes we're so full of all of our regrets and all of our hurts that we don't have room for the good stuff.
Mhm.
So we let that go, and we saw all of these lanterns in the night flying by, and it was just so symbolic. We do art. We have this amazing artist that comes and brings canvases, and she does guided art with them. And one lady said, I'd always been told I was a horrible artist and I had no skills. And she's like, now I don't believe them. And it was just very, very empowering. We do bread baking, and we have some amazing volunteers that come and do a high tea with these ladies that they just feel like a princess. But we also have classes. So but we do give them massages and makeovers and haircuts, but we also have tough classes because I want them to grow emotionally and mentally as well. We have classes on boundaries and forgiveness and trust and
Mhm.
how to have a healthy sexual relationship again. So,
Mhm.
how to be a good mom. So, we do a lot of amazing things like that with them. We try to pack as much as we can in a weekend.
That sounds so amazing. And if someone wanted to donate
Mhm.
time, money, their expertise, how do they connect with you to, so you can interview them, receive information from them? How do they do that?
So again, they can just reach out to us through our website. We are updating the website right now, and so we will have a link to the applications. You have to apply to come to the retreat. So probably within the next month, that link will be on there. You can apply to be a facilitator, which is like a volunteer. But we need donations, like donating miles for airline tickets. That's our
Mhm.
biggest expenses, flying them to us. Donations for gas cards, because if they live, within the next state, they can drive there.
Mhm.
Um, we have ex-prisoners that make blankets for them. We You give them goodie bags. 31 Gifts usually gives big bags for them to take home all the goodies that they get. But there's a lot of work and a lot of supplies that go into this. So we're going to get that all on our website. But it generally costs us about $15,000 for each retreat.
And you're hoping to do about 4 of them a year? Is that
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, thanks to University of Toledo, we're
Yes,
gonna
that's
be
right.
we're gonna be doing.
We're sort of trying to help out with that, and trying to offer the women who are interested some scholarships to attend a certification or degree program and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So tell me about your book, because that has recently, is that a New York Times bestseller for ebooks?
It is a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestseller for ebooks. Yes.
Okay, well, New York Times, we don't know what you're waiting on, but
Come on.
and so, what's the name of the book, and what is it about?
It's called The Slave Across the Street. There's actually 3 editions of that. One is that was released in the UK a couple years ago. The original one was published 10 years ago, and that one has hit bestseller too. And the new one just hit bestseller, and that's the 10-year anniversary edition. And it's really, it's still my story in there. But I was very, very vulnerable and honest with this one. I think I was ready emotionally to talk more about the family dynamics that went into why I was trafficked. And it's my spiritual journey of healing. You know, like you had said, people see me as this person that looks pretty well put together and she's got it and she's doing all this stuff. They hear my story, but they don't know anything from those middle years of what it took to get here. And I needed to be honest with people about the suicide attempts and the post-traumatic stress and the decisions that I made because of the trauma that I was living in and didn't even know it. So, I talk a lot about that journey and what it looked like.
Yes, that is what I think is really what people need to understand
Mm-hmm.
about moving from survivor to thriver, that there's a lot of work, there's a lot of pieces that have to be put in place. And so I know that book is amazing. And so that book, purchasing that book
Mm-hmm.
also helps you
Yeah,
to continue to do what you need to do.
exactly. Yeah.
And so I really encourage people who are listening that have groups and work directly with survivors and victims to consider purchasing the book and using it in your groups and sort of guided lessons with
Mhm.
some of your survivors, because I think that it would be awesome. And then connecting them perhaps to the retreat once they get um, eligible for that. And what is the eligibility for a survivor who wants to come to the retreat?
Well, we like women that are survivors to be definitely in a survivor mode. You know, I can attest that I was probably in a victim mode for many, many years because of the post-traumatic stress. Didn't even know it. So we look for women that are not in a programming. They're not in an addiction program, recovery program, or even a trafficking program. They have to have been graduated from that or past that and willing to put in the work. So if they're still really struggling emotionally, this might not be the best thing for them yet. They need, because this can be really triggering when you come to a retreat. It's tough to heal. And so I need them to be able to handle that. And we work with them and, you know, help guide them through that because everybody seems to have a meltdown at one point or the other. Um, so just that's basically about it. You know, we ask for references and we want them to be as healed as possible to be able to handle this. It's a tough retreat.
I could imagine. And so if you could share with the listener kind of what did your post-traumatic stress look like? How did it manifest itself, and what kind of advice would you give people that are working with survivors and trying to help move them down the road, or working with victims to become survivors?
Yeah. I think that I made some typical choices that anybody with post-traumatic stress or especially survivors make. I got involved in a domestic violence relationship for many years because I didn't feel worth anything more than that. When, you know, here's this person that says, I want to marry you and this is about as best that you're ever going to get. I believed it. And so I made, I would say, poor choices, but they were the only choices that I knew at the time because of my feelings of unworthiness, not being able to trust others, and definitely abandonment issues as well. In college, was very promiscuous, and that might surprise some people that don't know about post-traumatic stress and sexual abuse. You can go one way or the other, and I think I know that the reason that that happened to me was because I didn't know that I had the choice to say no. It was, if someone wanted to have sex, and that's what you do, and because I didn't know I didn't have any boundaries. And again, just the alcoholism, the drink, just, the suicide attempts, things like that, the trying to get people to notice me, to help me, because I didn't know how to help myself. So those were just some of the things of how the post-traumatic stress manifested in myself. And the best thing that saved me was going to college for social work,
Mm.
because I wrote a lot of papers on myself as we have to do a lot of
Mhm.
you know just a lot of things, a lot of self evaluations, and looking into myself and journaling, and my faith. I mean, those are things that saved me through those times, to be able now to be able to take a look at it and find a good counselor, and to be able to just to be, I don't know, to do the good work that I'm doing now.
That's awesome. And I couldn't agree more. My degree in social work just helped me so
Mm,
much going through my domestic violence relationships and just worthiness
yeah.
and not feeling worthy, not having good self-esteem. I sort of call us like survivor social workers,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and sort of a different, a special kind of um, heroes, and come with special kind of talents.
Yeah.
The
Life,
authenticity.
yeah, life lessons.
Yes, yes. And so you are amazing, a force of nature. I can't, you know, the universe has yielded to you. And I think, you know, um, the universe is definitely helping you do the things that you need to do. Um, you
I think
have some good karma going on. So
because I say yes,
yes,
really, truly. But it
yes,
also is because I have good people like you around me. You've known me almost from the very beginning when I started this, and it definitely has evolved, whether I wanted to or not. But if there's others out there that want to go into this work, of helping survivors, of education and prevention and awareness of this issue, if I could give them any advice, it's to do not do this by the seat of your pants, which I feel like I probably have. It felt like that, but it really wasn't, because I had good people. God put good people around me, to make me be able to do this. I helped start Grace Haven, and I got media training on how to be interviewed, and I had strong spiritual mentors, and you yourself, academic people around me. So God really put in my place to be able to do this. I've read a lot of books, I've researched a lot. You have to continue learning and being able to discern who's a good person and who's healed and who's not, have good boundaries to be able to do this work.
yes. And so you are definitely blessed and even divinely favored.
Wow.
And you are doing God's work. Like, Maya Angelou says, people think that they're in the accounting business, or they're in the nursing business, or whatever business, they're in the social work business.
Mhm.
Um, and oftentimes people are in one business, they're in God's business.
Yeah.
So,
I like
and
that.
some people recognize it and some people don't. Um, so when you are given advice, if you were to give advice to the young people, or older people that enter into this field, you say don't go into it naively,
Yeah.
don't fly by the seat of your pants.
Hmm.
What should they be doing?
They need to know, first of all, this is really, really hard work. Um, you know, you hear people like, I've got an extra room in my house and I just want to give it to a human trafficking victim. And it's like, it's really, really hard work. Emotionally, it's hard work. It's draining. And you have to be educated on this. You have to know what you're going into, like eyes wide open. Read every survivor book out there you can, because they will teach you, and talk to every person that you can before you go into this, and really truly listen to the people around you and what they're saying. For survivors who want to do this work and become a survivor leader, which I hate that word, but who want to become a survivor leader, not every survivor needs to become a leader. You know, you can't have all leaders, right? Otherwise you'd have no followers. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
not everybody has to write a book. Not everybody has to get up on a stage and tell our story. There's a job in this for everybody. And it might just be being the best parent you can be. You know, it might just be, you know, being healed enough to go to the grocery store and not freak out. And that's okay. So I don't want any pressure, like myself, especially, to put pressure on other survivors or anybody that you have to be like me or this, because, you know, that this is just what God called me to do. But really taking care of yourself, self-care is super important.
Mhm. Mhm.
And just listening. I mean, like I said, you've got to learn. And there was something else I was going to say, but it's very, very hard work. Oh, I know what it is. Really, the number one thing is that so many of us have been hurt and broken in the past, and you cannot get your healing through doing this work.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So if you think that I'm going to help survivors and I'm going to help do this movement because it's going to help heal me, that's not the case. Does that make sense? Can you maybe say that in a different way? I might not.
Absolutely. I think seek out the healing
Mm-hmm.
and then do the work.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Teresa. I've taken up a lot of your time, but it's so important because you have so many things going on and so many ways that people can help and become a part of it. And that's what I love about your movement.
Mm,
There are lots of movements going on, but then when you get people passionate and they're ready to do something, you don't really have anything for them to do.
yeah,
Whereas your movement is always action oriented. There are
yeah.
always things that people can be doing
Mm-hmm.
in their homes, going out to hotels, reading, learning. You're always action oriented, and you don't let people's butts kind of get warm sitting in a seat.
No,
That's
I
like, if
um,
you're passionate, you're committed, let's go, let's get busy. There's something that you can do. And the something that you can do is critically important. It's not just busy work. So
yeah.
that's what I love about your movement. Do you have any final words for people who want to become advocates?
Yeah, and it's just exactly what you just said. You know, do something about it. For a long time, I didn't know what people could do about it, but people can. I mean, they can, you know, start a strip club ministry and take flowers and, you know, toiletries to women and just love on them. I mean, that not everybody can do that. If if the man that was my neighbor and saw me running through his backyard in my pajamas and barefoot at midnight to meet that car would have gotten off his butt and gone and talked to my parents, then I wouldn't have to have this conversation with you today. And so
Absolutely. Yeah,
forget it.
I think we need to take it old school. Um, Back in the day, if you did something and it didn't look right, and you were walking home from school, you might have got told off by three parents. You might have got a whooping by one of the parents that wasn't even your parent,
Yeah,
because everybody took care of everybody's kids, and that's where we got to go back to old school.
you
We
have
can't just worry about our kids. We have to worry about all the kids. Takes a
to.
village. We need to be that village,
Yep. If you
and
see
so
something
there's
that
something for everybody to do.
exactly. Amen. So
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Teresa. And I hope people who are listening will get involved, even if it's a small part, even if it's just writing a check to your organization,
Yeah.
because they're too busy to do anything else. That would be awesome.
Yep.
So
We take
thank
encouragement
you.
cards and we give the encouragement cards to these ladies too. And when they're going through a hard time and at the retreat, so write a note to a survivor and send it to us. That's even great.
Oh, encouragement cards. So they write a note
Yeah.
of inspiration or what, and they just send it to you.
Yeah. I mean, here's, and then these ladies on our retreat go to their room when it's kind of getting hard and they have a note from a random stranger that's just thinking and caring about them. And keeps them going. So send us a card, for a survivor.
Oh, that's awesome. Where do they send that?
The address for our office is on the website.
Okay, and is your website, what is your website? I think
www.soapproject.org.
Oh, thank God. I'm so glad I remembered to ask that. Um, Good. Well, thank you so much again, Teresa. I'm going to let you, uh, hang up so you can rest because I know you're going to have a busy week ahead. But
Yes.
thank you again.
You're welcome, Sia. Thank you for everything you do.
The strength of the human spirit to survive always astonishes me. And then to thrive takes great courage. Faith defies logic. Faith is an act of courage. Whether you're a person of faith through Christianity or Hinduism or Buddhism or Islam, or you just believe in the humanity of fellow men and women, faith defies logic. Strive, he says, strive. What if it hurts, I say? It will hurt, he says. Grow anyway. That's what Teresa Flores does every day. Not only that, but she has enough to give to other people's brokenness and help them also heal because she is authentic and understands what people need. And she's been to those places where people need to grow from. If you have the resources, the means, the time, the capability, consider supporting Teresa's Soap Project. Also in this episode, I really want you to focus on yourself. I want you to take a look at your brokenness. Are you surviving? Are you attempting to thrive? Are you going to those scary places and work on your own healing? Because when you show up authentic, working on your thriverhood, then you become the genuine article. Can you be fully healed? I don't know, but you can always be working on your own healing because that's the best way to show up in the lives of victims and survivors and in the life of the movement. Let's not just do something, let's do the best thing. If you like this episode of Emancipation Nation, please subscribe and I'll send you the weekly podcast. Until then, the fight continues.